We'll kick off. So welcome to the Be All In podcast. I'm sitting down today with a special guest, Aldrin Oscing, otherwise known as Buzz. I feel like Buzz is the key word that everyone knows you by.
It's the buzzword.
So we are here to talk more about Buzz's story. I've heard glimpses of it mainly through Bailey because they have a close relationship, but I'm super excited to hear it straight from the horse's mouth and get to know you on a deeper level and to share that with our broader community. So welcome to the podcast.
It's good to be here. I'm pumped for it. Let's go.
So I like to start by giving an introduction from my research online of who our guests are from a Google search, really. Ooh. So I'll give that and then you can kind of chime in afterwards with who you feel like you really are. So who is Buzz? Buzz is a very busy and sought-after man. He's the proud owner of 8 premium health practices, notably ProForm Physiotherapy, which he has led to its well-known success over the past decade. During his time in the industry, he has developed a particular eye for detail in identifying movement dysfunction and restoring universal movement patterns, for which he has built an incredible reputation. Buzz is the go-to man for high-level athletes, with most notably being Ricky Garard, who he actually went to with the CrossFit Games with this year. Having previously co-owned his own CrossFit Gym for 5 years, Buzz is able to draw on his own experience and meet athletes where they are to understand where they are coming from and where they want to go. Buzz is now utilising his success to mentor practices around the country to help replicate his own successes. Outside the clinic, Buzz loves being active and has recently completed his first Ironman. He's a husband, a father of 2, and we honestly don't know how he does it all. So today we're going to sit down and ask him just that. Welcome.
Thank you. That was a good intro. Pretty much everything you need to know about me.
So do you feel like I missed anything, or is there anything else that you would like to, I guess, include from your resume?
No, that's pretty much it. I mean, owning the business and ProForm seems to be the main thing that most people know me from. But yeah, huge love for CrossFit for a long period of time, which I used to own a gym with one of my best mates. And that was such a cool part of my life, which I'm no longer part of, but definitely a pinnacle moment in my life as well. But other than that, I'm enjoying where I'm at. I've got a beautiful family, and just at the moment kind of figuring out what's the next thing for myself, but also for my impact on the world.
That's awesome.
Nice, exciting time to be in.
And when you were owning the box, you're a fit guy too. You can snatch 115, 120. What were you up to?
Let's say 120. That sounds bigger, so we'll roll with that. Some big numbers there. I was clean and jerking 145 as well. For power. But yeah, it was a really good moment.
The best, I swear I've seen you snatching 100 in jeans and no shoes, was it? Or flat shoes?
Yeah, that was one time I went to a friend's gym just to he needed my help for physio, and I saw a barbell on the floor. I was like, I haven't done this in a while. And so I just did a few warm-up reps. So I did about 3 reps before it, and then I just hit the 100 in my casual clothes.
That video's been sent around our gym a few times whenever we want to show off who you are.
That's it.
So also, the nickname Buzz, where did that come from and what is the full story?
Yeah, so my real name's Aldrin. Yeah. It's just so hard to tell people your name's Aldrin, right? But most of the older generation, I feel like I'm old now talking about this, but essentially know who Buzz Aldrin is. Yep. He's the second man on the moon, first the worst, second the best, just FYI. But essentially when I was in uni, I got asked in an anatomy class to come forward and volunteer to answer a few questions. And the lecturer was like, "Oh, so what's your name?" My name's Aldrin. And she's like, "Sorry, what was that?" It's Aldrin. And she's like, "Come again?" I was like, "Aldrin." "Oh, Buzz Aldrin." And she's like, "Can we call you Buzz from now on?" I'm like, "Sure." So it kind of stuck from day one at uni. And so everybody in that class and the rest of my cohort just knew me as Buzz.
Okay.
But funnily, my nickname prior to that was Oldie, which is so weird.
Now to think about.
Now everyone's just going to call me Oldie.
But, we can bring it back. But no, Buzz has a good ring to it. It's
Buzz
very well known.
It's got a zing to it. So
we love it. Okay. So I guess, like I've mentioned, I know a lot of your story is secondhand information from Bailey telling me more about you. You're a very impressive human. And in hearing it more from you, maybe we can kind of start back at the beginning in your childhood and upbringing. Yeah. How did that shape, I guess, the person that you are today?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm a big believer, like your past experiences and what you've gone through and the chaos you grew up in builds who you are today. And I actually think, we're on this podcast now and business owner to business owners, it's the chaos that you grow up in that really does define what you do now. And if you grow up in enough chaos, some people say they build the best entrepreneurs. But my childhood was pretty all over the place. My family, we're from the Philippines, but they came here just to sort out a better life. Mum and Dad didn't really have much growing up. They lived in the poorest part of the Philippines. And so they had an opportunity to come out to Sydney, plug themselves in DY. So I actually grew up on the beaches. And I was there with my cousins and stuff like that. But my dad was a really hardworking guy. When you come from nothing, you just do everything you can to create opportunities so that your own kids never go through that sort of life. So he worked a few jobs. He was a postman. He was a pizza delivery guy. He also was a kitchen hand, and then he would do cement rendering on the weekend. And so I saw that my whole childhood of how hard my dad worked and why he did it was just for our family. And so, grew up on the beaches pretty much my whole life. And then one day my dad finally was able to afford to buy a house, but we couldn't buy it on the beaches. And I don't think you can buy it on the beach now. It's just really expensive. But we bought a house towards this area in between Blacktown and the hills. And then he had to work extra hard to be able to afford that. Yeah. My sister came along as well, so there was all that too. But there came a point in my dad's life where he was super stressed and it got the best of him. So one day he was out on his motorbike delivering mail and all of a sudden he just completely lost his eyesight. So everything just went black and he was on the bike and couldn't really see anything. There was like a thin line that he could look through just to get back to work. But basically the surgeons and the specialists that we saw told him, look, you've actually got a bilateral retinal detachment. So the retina at the back of the eye has come off from the eye. And so there's no signal going to the brain to tell you what you're seeing. So you've got a guy who's working hard, just bought a house, we had a car, my sister was growing up, I've moved to a new school, and you've been told, like, you know what, it's all over. You're not going to be able to see again. And so, that was really challenging for us as a family. Not only did we have to go through living with significantly less, but when everything seems to be finally coming together, we almost lost everything. And so I still remember a time sitting down at home next to my dad's bed. He was just lying down in bed and he kind of called me into the room and he said, son, you're going to need to be the man of the house now. And it almost was like a bit of a, like, I'm going to go, or I'm at the point where I'm giving up on life. And I've never seen my dad get to that point. And so being like a 11-year-old kid, to hear your old man tell you, like, you're going to need to step up here and pretty much lead this family whilst I navigate this, it's a huge load to bear at a young age. And so from there, I was just like, all right, there is no other option. I'm going to have to figure out how to be the best at everything. And all my dad wanted me to do was to study hard, do really well, get a good job, the traditional things that most parents want for their kid. And so I just went head down to excel at everything. And so I guess from that conversation, everything I do in life, it's like an automatic trigger in my brain to go, well, how can I do this better? And that's good, but what's better? And what do I need to do to get there? It's not an option to not get there. Let's just get there. Yeah. So through that though, my dad found God, and we have a huge faith background in the church. So we all follow Jesus. My whole family has been a church ever since then, which has been a huge saving grace for us as a family. My dad ended up then going into learning how to read Braille. I did a story the other day, but he grows orchids. He's won a few awards growing orchids that he can't see. He's gone back to the Philippines because he wants to tell his whole family about, even though he has no eyesight and no ability to really do what he did previously, God's really blessed our family in so many ways. So he's built a church in his backyard in the Philippines where we grew up on a farm, and that church is now used as a school to help kids that can't afford it to go there, and we sponsor the teachers there. yeah, so he's really plugged into the local church that he goes to, and same, like it's like been a main thing for us in our success moving forward. So yeah, since then just did really well at school, or tried to anyway, and then just went into business. Always wanted to, because I saw how much freedom as a business owner you can have. And took a few risks and somehow ended up here.
That is an insane story. And I think it really does align with, I guess, the person I know you are and how your businesses do perform, in that they are excelling and constantly chasing better. And it all aligns with, I guess, where it started from, right at the root of your upbringing.
Yeah.
Being obviously young and feeling like you had to be the man of the house, that would have shaped your perspective and your work ethic. Were there any other key moments that you felt like, I guess, made you really put your head down and realise that you wanted to work, I guess, to get to where you are right now?
Yeah. I mean, there's so many, right? As a kid, like, especially for parents that come from overseas and migrate to Australia, the biggest thing is they want you to do really well in school. And my whole life, it's like you got to study, become a surgeon, or the typical Asian parent kind of spiel. And that was their thing for me. But the other side of it is, like, I was very impatient. I didn't like being told that I wasn't good enough. When you're trying to do your best, but your parents kind of go, like, what are you going to do next time? You don't ever always, like, you don't really feel enough all the time. And because my dad wasn't really at home, which is, he had to do it, he had to work, which I'm not, I'm not angry at him about, or maybe I am, I don't know. But you grow up trying to find validation and love, and you try to find people that'll tell you, like, you're doing great. And I actually found that in my friends, because I spent the most time at school with them, and my parents were off working. And so one of the things that I hated was the fact that we couldn't afford stuff, and being the person that's like, no, I'm gonna be places. There was just this one moment when I was like in year 5, and I was a bit of a rat bad kid, but I found love in friends, so I wanted to, in their eyes, appeal cool and like just the man, and but I couldn't afford nice clothes, I couldn't afford any of that sort of stuff. But I remember this one time, a friend of mine is like, hey, you should come with me. It was like year 5 before school. And he's like, my uncle actually owns a restaurant, and he gives me money every morning, and I'll give you $5 if you come and just help me. I was like, yeah, $5, awesome. Now I can like buy stuff. And I remember one time going into this restaurant to just hang out with him. And he's like, oh, just hang here for a second. I'll go in, meet my uncle, and come out. So he'd give me $5 every time I did this. This went on for weeks. And there was one time he's like, you want to come inside? I'm like, yeah, cool. Thinking, all right, I'm going to meet his uncle, whatever. And I went inside. There was no uncle. And he was going to the front, stealing money from his uncle's restaurant and giving me the money. And I was panicking. I was like, I don't know what to do here. And I was standing there in the front thinking, far out, do I take some money? Because I saw this bag, and at the time there was this bag full of, it had a $100 note in it, which was like the biggest thing back in the day. When a $100 note comes out, and they just came out fresh. We didn't have $100 notes then, but then the day it did come out, I saw one, and I was like, all right, I'm going to take that. I put it in my pocket, and it ended up not being just one $100 note. It had like 10 of these $100 notes in it. And so I took it, and I didn't know what the heck to do with it. And so I didn't want anything to do with it. So rather than like throwing it away or just hiding it, which I tried, I hid it and I picked it up. I was like, this is stupid. I ended up buying yo-yos for everyone in the school, which is not a smart move when you're trying to hide money. And so, those yo-yo, the Diablos that you throw up in the air? Yeah, I reckon I bought like just anyone who wanted one, I'd buy one.
Yo-yo man.
And so people were like at the school too, just like, why has everyone got all these Diablo things? And anyways, long story short, police got involved. I got in big trouble. Dad really didn't really look at me the same way for a long period of time. So that's really disheartening, knowing that these are the guys I'm trying to impress. But yeah, that moment kind of showed me that like I've kind of, one, now that I'm looking back in hindsight, like kids really need to feel loved and valued by family and not try and find that elsewhere. But secondly, like there's a big trap when you're trying to impress everybody. And so, that moment now that I look back is probably the reason why it's really tough when I upset someone or like I don't do a good job. And so that's something for me that's really stayed with me is it's solidified, like I got to do right by my parents. So in a way, I'm always trying to repay them back for the faults I had. But at the same time, I was a kid, so I don't really know what I don't know until you're here in retrospect to look back. So, there's some moments like that where that's happened. Lots of moments through high school where I didn't do any drugs, which is cool. Stayed out of that scene, but definitely was hanging around the wrong people, people who just were in gangs and, stole stuff, rolled people, all that stuff. I don't know if that's like that in the hills, but in Blacktown, it's a normal thing. Just wasn't really around good people to lead me in the right direction. Yeah. But funnily enough, like in year 11, my now wife, she was at the school I was. She went away, but she came back. And I was still trying to be the cool kid still, where she tried to turn her life around and did really well at school. And I was like, what am I doing with my life? I need to figure out what I'm doing. Otherwise, I'm not going to end up where I want to be. Yeah. And so from year 11 was the time where I was like, okay, if I really want something, I'm going to have to work hard and put my head down and focus. And so I did for the rest of the year. Year 11, I was failing every single test that was given to me. I kind of cruised by on talent from 7 to 10, but year 11 just couldn't hide anymore. Yeah. But, I pulled my head down, focused, and in year 12, I got the ATAR I needed to get into physio, which was at the time 96, but I got a 98.5, which is awesome. But my wife now, who was there, she got like a 99. Right? So she pretty much will never stop telling me about how she beat me at one time. And so she's always got that on me for eternity.
I beat Bailey in my ATAR too, so I hold that over him.
Never let go of it. It's good. So, so there's things like that.
It is like so many lessons along the way. So many lessons. Yeah. And so pivotal.
So pivotal on the value of knowing what you want, defining your endpoint, working hard to achieve it, and just knowing that the effort you put in is gonna come about. Even a ratbag kid like me who's come from, doing dumb things can turn their life around in such a short period of time.
And that's what I love about your story that I've heard the whispers through Bailey is that you have been able to go through adversity and potentially like question your identity during those early years of your adolescence to the man you are now. And I think it just really resonates with us and I guess a lot of our community because we do have the adolescents that are going through those pivotal years coming through our gym and these four walls. And they are still questioning whether they can reach their end goal or whether some of what they've done is going to weigh them down. And we're always very passionate about making sure, like, no, you can change and you can achieve your goals as long as you decide that you're all in on it. And I think that's what your story really does say. Yep. So in that journey, you then obviously get into uni. What about physiotherapy made you want to get into it, I guess? What about that career?
Yeah, I mean, growing up, and trying to be the cool kid, play lots of sport and just do what all the other cool kids were doing. And thankfully, I was a decent soccer player, decent basketball player as well. But, I made it to Hornets out of, kid from Blacktown, this short, and everybody else is like twice my size. Bit of an anomaly there, but we did it. And basically, I was about to go into the second season of playing basketball for Hills, and I was playing a pickup game just for school, actually in this stadium.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I get nightmares walking in here. And this is when the courts were. Are they still blue?
No, the rebound ace. It used to be that they changed them to the hardwood floors. Yeah.
And so I did a pro hop once during a game. When I planted my leg, someone came in to guard me, and then I extended my knee, and then my knee just went pop. Oh, no. And then Mitzi's there going, "You're right, I need you to play." But like I couldn't walk, didn't know what was going on. I tried to shake it off like I normally do when I sprain my ankle, but that set me out for a whole year. So that also is partly why I had the time to study because I wasn't playing sport. Yeah. But I did my ACL, and one of the things that I really appreciated was the physio I was seeing. Like going there and just chatting with someone and having a laugh, but also the support he gave me and the confidence for me to get back into things. He spoke words of encouragement, always moving me in the right direction. It just was a really good place to be, as opposed to the first doctor that I saw, who was very dismissive. You'll never play basketball again. Don't do this. It's stupid. It was just a different experience. And I wanted to give back what experience I had, just based on the love that this guy showed me, to the rest of the world. And it's kind of come full circle now that now I'm a physio, doing physio for Hills Hornets. But that put me in the trajectory of like, well, I like this guy. I like what he's doing. Secondly, he can make some money. He's a business owner, so he earns a lot of money versus what you would do just being like, playing it safe and just being an employee. He was passionate about it, a specific type of physio. At the time for him, it was all sports injuries. And there was a huge need for it. Clearly, I needed it in that. Yeah. And so I saw that and thought maybe I could do that, and I went for it. So, that's awesome. Yeah. So
cool. So then in the journey, at some point you open a gym and then ProForm is born. Is that at the same time or like one after the other?
No. At uni, the big thing, the hot thing to do was just to get in the gym and get jacked, Yeah. So I was like just doing bodybuilding and whatever. And a friend of mine actually invited me to do CrossFit. I was like, what the heck's that? And I had all this muscle. I was probably no one's as built as Bailey, but I had all this muscle mass. I was like, I feel strong, whatever. And my bench is this. And I did a CrossFit class, and it absolutely buckled me. and it wasn't even a hard class. It was like, a few cleans, and then it was a run, and then maybe some burpees. But I still remember I can't remember her name, but she was like 50 years old, just lapping me during the workout. I'm thinking, what's the point in having all this muscle mass if I can't even use it? Yeah. So then it kind of, the whole, you're not good at something, you're going to have to dive in here. Just wanted to get really good at CrossFit and weightlifting and all that. And so by the end of my so I finished uni, was still in the bodybuilding phase, and then after it, I was like, okay, I'm going to move into CrossFit. Yeah. So I started doing it at a space, and got really good at it just because I loved doing it and obsessed about it. And then the owner actually was like, I heard you're a physio. Do you want to come check out my back, because I'd need help, and I'm happy to sort something out for you. You don't have to pay any rent. So I did that. I helped him out, and then someone caught wind of it and was like, hey, I heard you help such and such out. Can you see me as well? And then it just led to one thing over another, and all of a sudden I was busier upstairs of a CrossFit gym than I was at my full-time job. Yeah. So I was like, I'm onto something here. So yeah, then I really made ProForm a thing. But ProForm actually started day one after university. Oh, really? Yeah, because I was in the gym all the time, getting jacked with all my mates, but everyone was like, hey, when you're a physio, I'll be your first patient. Yeah. And so as soon as I graduated, people were calling me up and saying, hey, can you drive to mine and sort me out? And so I just had to start any business, and that's how it was born. So the first place that ProForm operated from was a mobile physio firstly, and then it was my parents' living room. I actually turned that living room into a space. Yeah. I closed off the wall and just had a bed there, had this ugly Persian carpet on it, and just had randoms knocking on my door, which was good and bad, because it's bad because now everyone knows where you live. Yep. I had to go, you know what, this has to end. So I ended up asking the gym owner, can I just actually rent the space upstairs? And that's how ProForm really started. Wow. Yeah. And so it's obviously grown a lot over the past 10 years, but thinking back to those early days of when you were a young business owner, I guess, what lessons did you learn in those first few years where I'm sure you're working like an absolute dog? Yeah. I think, what gets you from from 5 figures to 6 figures won't work from 6 figures to 7 figures. But in the first years of trying to get that, magic $100,000 worth of revenue come through the door, you really do need a hustle. And so I worked really, really hard. I said yes to everything, and I was like, this is awesome. I'm making all this money and helping all these people and whatever. I'm a businessman. But you can only do that for so long before your body tells you, you know what, this is not working for me. And so earlier on, I realized I wanted to do it all. And I thought the more, leading into this part of my life, it's always just been about effort and input. The more effort you put in, the more you input into the business, the better it becomes. But I actually think that that only happens to a point where you have so much to give, so much energy and time and stuff before you start dropping off again. and then your relationships suffer, you suffer, and the enjoyment of the job suffers. And so I had that probably in the first year or two. And I remember listening to a podcast once, and there was a saying, which is like, you can have control, you can have growth, but you can't have both. So if I'm going to grow this thing, I'm going to have to release a lot of the control of just me being the man and doing everything. The reputation that I built was all built on me, and so it was really hard to trust new people to now take on the business. People that don't own the business, they're not fully invested in it and whatever. And so I knew from a very start, like, if I want this thing to go where it needs to be, I'm going to have to start trusting other people. And I hired a few people that weren't really, meant to be in the space.
Yeah.
But you learn those mistakes and you learn how to hire well. Best time to hire is before you fire, right? Best time to fire is before you hire. And so, just trying to navigate letting go of control was a big lesson for me to learn.
Yeah.
But since doing that, business has skyrocketed from the moment you make that commitment and decide that.
That's so cool. And I think that leads well into, like, I guess my next question, which is one thing we admire so much about you guys and where you are now is your team.
Right.
And that you seem to have this group of people who are able to carry your vision and bring it alight without it just being solely you. So I guess, how have you done that? And I guess, what are some of your like mantras and ethos about developing team?
Yeah, really good question. So if you're thinking about starting a team, the first thing you got to do is you have to be okay with not allowing everybody to be happy, right? Like, someone's going to disagree with you, someone's going to agree with you, someone's going to be on the fence. And being a people pleaser, that was really tough for me. I didn't really understand at the time how people operated. And I actually, most people don't realize this, but like, being in a service-based industry, you have to have a lot of empathy, like being able to put yourself in someone's shoes and then, then help them get through their injury, etc., but also for your team. And they say good businesses are the ones that have real high emotional intelligence. I didn't have that. When I first started business, it was just like, this is how we're going to do it, because I've done it always this way and it's made the success that it has. And so I didn't have time for people to tell me their opinions and stuff.
Yeah.
That was until I met started really dating my wife and realized that doesn't work. You have to collaborate. But I would say the main thing when you're building a team is you definitely need to build your empathy. You got to understand where people are coming from. There's a saying that Alex Hormozy said, which is like, you can either be angry or understanding. You can't be both at the same time. Yeah. And so if I'm angry about something that someone says or angry with someone, it's because I don't understand them. And that was the start of my business, trying to hire people, is I didn't get them. Yeah. I didn't understand how to communicate to them, but I also didn't understand how they like to communicate to me. And once you understand that people are they're just different, they're not bad or good, they're just different in the way that they communicate and how they like to receive it. Yeah. Then you become a lot more gracious in the space. You create a buffer, you give space for people to just be who they are. Yeah. But then you develop them to level up, right? Yeah. So there was a lot of that at the very beginning. It's just being very understanding of people and making sure that I had space to allow them to operate the way they did, but also having a very clear intention to build their leadership skills and communication, and also myself as well. So that was one thing. And then the next one I would say is that you can't really propel your business forward if no one knows where you're going. Yeah. So, and it just needs to mean, what it means is like, you have to have a clear vision of where you're going to go, or at least a direction. And so communicating that vision to my team was really important, so that we're all aligned with heading in the right direction. It's like, if we're all going to hop on a bus, you don't know where the bus is going. Are you going to hop on the bus? You probably will for a little bit, but then you realize, like, I don't really like this neighborhood we're heading in, and people jump off. Yeah. But if they know that where the destination is, which might be Disneyland, they don't mind going through the hood and through some ghetto places and whatever, and go up and down mountains, because they know they're going to get to Disneyland. So having a clear vision from the very beginning when people jump on is really key, and just making sure that once they understand the vision of where we're heading, do they actually want to go on that journey with us? And if it is, then great, this is going to be good. But when we're hiring people, we tell that. And so now you understand where we're going. Do you like that? Great. Here are some of the key aspects of who you need, like the type of people we want on this journey. So knowing what your values are as well as a company is really cool. A cool thing to hire on. Yeah. So people will hire on performance and how good are you at this job and whatever. But the thing is, it's really hard to teach character traits to people, but it's really easy to teach people how to be better at, like, being, physio-wise, like your education, how do you apply that. So we based our hiring process on character traits and what are some of the values that we want in someone. So someone who's humble, who's able to, like, take on feedback, they're coachable, but also they have a real high performance attitude to things. So yes, like, I might not have the answers, but I will find them.
Yeah.
And so we had to fine tune what that looked like, which was the second thing. And then having real clear mission as well. So vision and mission. Vision's like, what's the dream? Here's what I see. Whereas having a real strong mission is like, here's the task at hand that we need to achieve. So it has to be clear.
Yeah.
So like a person going on into the army, they have a mission to, capture this person. You either complete the mission or you didn't. There's objectives to hit and key milestones to hit along the way. So we integrated things from, like, the corporate world, and we made it part of our language. Even though we're an allied health business, we still like using what works for bigger companies. So we have this, we have our own language of how we speak about things.
Yeah.
So we've mentioned things like OKRs, what's our objective, which is the direction we're going with this particular thing, and what are the key results that we need to hit in order to know that we're moving in that direction.
Yeah.
What's our definition of done? Whenever I'm giving a task to one of my team guys, I'm always asking, okay, so I know you want this from me. What's done look like? How can we celebrate a win? And tell me what date that needs to be done by and who's accountable for it.
Yeah.
So just having your own language that your tribe can speak makes them feel part of, like, a community.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. We got your vision, your mission, your values. But the thing that we've gotten really clear on the last few years is making sure that we have purpose to why we do. There's a reason why we exist. And people might come for the nice vision that you have, but they stay for the purpose that you build for the world. And so we always drive that through, for our company. We exist to nurture the human body so people can heal better, perform at their best, and live for the moments that matter. And that's just plastered across all of our staff members' brains.
Yeah.
So they never forget it.
I love that. I'll clip all of that sequence, and Bailey and I will listen to that on repeat as we're in this phase now of, I guess, like 3 years in, like, we've gone through, like, the hustle phase, and now we're, I guess, in that growth phase where we're trying to develop our team alongside us, and we're very much trying to outwardly speak what are we actually trying to do here, and not just to our staff, but to our actual community so they can feel along for the ride. Yeah. But I think, developing a team has been just such a great learning for us too, of people are just all so different, and like, the way you speak to one person doesn't work the way you speak to the next. And but I guess that's the fun of it too, in that you have to have a whole different deck of cards that you can play at any different moment. And it's definitely a phase we're going through at the moment too. So it's great to hear all of that.
Yeah, good.
So you're 10 years in, I guess, what has your day-to-day changed now that your business has grown? So I guess comparing, what you do now to what you did in those early phases, what's different?
Yeah, definitely a lot more planning. Before, what we used to do is, like, 7 o'clock, let's get to work. And we just put head down, do your thing, and just keep working, right? Whereas now it's not about just doing more. It's like, how can we come up with the minimal viable product, or the minimum that we need to do to be able to achieve an outcome for someone that'll make them very happy. Because then they get the outcome, we get to reserve our energy, and then we can put that into other things that move the needle forward. So definitely that all comes with planning. So having a good strategy for how you execute is really important. So nowadays we actually have meetings to have that, right? Like, we have quarterly meetings to set a strategy for that quarter, where we reflect back on the old one, and then we kind of be honest about what worked, what didn't, and then what are we choosing to do to move forward on this, And even if we don't have the answer, we still need to make a decision, still need to make a choice, and then it's either going to work or not. But even if it doesn't, it's another learning piece of the puzzle. Yeah. So the planning and strategy has been huge. So for me, I definitely don't work as much. So I used to work, 40, 50, 60-hour weeks. But nowadays, I probably work half a day a week in terms of treating people, sometimes a full day if it's needed and people are off on leave. But a lot of it now is looking at, okay, what are we doing and how can we do it better? Yeah. So working on the business versus, being in it and just getting smoked. And it doesn't mean that, like, I'm better than other people. I always tell my team, like, the perspective is we're on the same team. Let's call it a soccer team, Kellyville Colts outside, but we're in the same soccer team. We all just have different positions right now, but we're on the same level playing field. So rather than trying to make this real vertical company where there's this hierarchy of things, we really try to play horizontally here. Yeah. And that way everybody feels like their contribution isn't less than mine, it's just different. So whereas previously I used to be like, I'm calling the shots, you follow me, you do this. Which is now it's like, guys, help me figure out where are my blind spots, what can I do better, and how can I help you?
Yeah. I love that. That's so cool. So now that you're treating less, but you still do work with some huge athletes, who are some of them? And I guess, are there any key moments that have stood out in that you've been able to help them really achieve a goal or had some big wins with some of these big notable athletes that you're treating?
I mean, right now I'm working with Ricky, and he obviously CrossFit Games athlete, and I'm working with Khan as well, and he's won the games as a team. A lot of them are really just those games athletes that have kind of been in the space for a long period of time, and that. So what am I doing with them is the question.
Well, what are wins they've had? I know that you helped Ricky overcome his ankle this year at the games. That was cool.
Ricky had his... So Ricky came to me to help him with his shoulder.
Oh, back from the motorbike
back
accident.
in the day where he went on a motorbike and landed awkwardly and had surgery and everything. So basically just helped him get through that. Normally that sort of surgery will take 12, 16 weeks to get better, but we managed to, he did all the work, everything I asked of him. He travelled from Wollongong to see me, and that's a 90-minute trip one way. He got back into things within 8 weeks, which is incredible.
That was crazy to watch.
Insane. Khan, he's had issues for a long period of time with his lower back, and they kind of come and go, but he had a raging disc bulge that just buckled him, and he couldn't lift a barbell from the floor. But we managed to help him get to the games last year, which honestly, if you speak to him, he'll let you know, like he was not in a good place where he had his elbow thing. There's videos of us doing work together, but there was a point there where he was wondering whether or not this is worth doing, anymore. And going and then obviously we got him back and he's won it with James and the rest of the team. So those are some really big wins. Helping someone get back quickly and safely and not have it trouble you, but also someone who was on the brink of just calling it quits to turn his whole training around and win the games. That's really something special to be part of, for sure.
That's insane. And they are some athletes, and I think the things that people see you doing online is obviously so enticing because it looks different, and I know you have different methods that it's like, how are these guys doing all of these things that have made them where they are? And I think a lot of it comes back to your detailed eye.
I mean, it's just another approach, right? There's so many ways to go about something, and they've done it a certain way for a long period of time that's helped them get to where they are, but clearly there's something that's missing. And so I'm finding, especially with athletes like Ricky and Khan, it's that they don't know what they don't know. And so it's just me trying to fill in the gaps. And it may work some days for what we give them, and sometimes it's not. And it's just all about collaborating with them to know, is this working for you? If not, we need to shift gears here. Just being part of a bigger team. So
that's awesome.
It's really good.
So outside of work, you still manage to live a lot of life. I feel like family, triathlons on the side, training, and you seem to do it all. So I guess, how do you seem to do it all? And what are your tips for finding a balance that keeps you going?
Yeah. I mean, when you say do it all, right, it's everything that I want to do. And because I can't do every single thing that's out there. But if I select the ones that are important to me, and the definition of do it all is do everything that's on my high priority list of what's meaningful for me, I'm able to do it. But I'm doing it because I'm also saying no to a lot of other stuff. So to be able to do it all, or do all the things that you want to do, you also need to say no to some of the things that you kind of wanted to do. Say no to good things to say yes to great things. Now, when it comes to time management, another lesson I've learned over the many years is it's when you look at time management and trying to fit everything in, everybody's got the same amount of hours a day. But the thing is, every hour is not created equal. So your work at 3 a.m. is going to be completely different to the type of work you're going to be doing at 3 p.m. in terms of how well you execute. And so it's about matching your energy throughout the day where you're at your best, and then doing the tasks that require you to be at your best during those times. Because if you have tasks that require you to be at your best, but you're doing it at your worst times, that's when you start to feel burnt out, overwhelmed, overworked, and you're not going to have a good time, and you're not going to deliver on what you want to deliver on. So for me to do it, one, I got to choose what my things are, but then secondly, I got to make sure that I allocate my energy to the right time of day. And you'll get the best return on investment doing it that way than just trying to plug it randomly into those places. I'm a big believer of, stacking, very similar tasks together and batching them, and also having separate days for different things. So Monday's a big strategic planning day. Friday's a day where we just tie up loose ends, and Wednesday's our creative day where we'll film content, etc. Thursday's the day I treat, and Tuesday is kind of like executing as fast as I can on our big A tasks from what we decided on the Monday. And so we get all our stuff, we need the real important stuff out early, and even through the day, that's how I organise it. So what are my big rocks that I need to get done that give me the best return on investment of my time, but also not so much for the urgency, but like what impact is this going to have long term? And we get them out early in the day when I'm fresh. And for me, that's when I work at my best. Yeah. So
awesome.
It's a lot of like hacks to the thing.
Yeah.
But really, if I were to slim it down to one thing that allows me to do it all, is learning how to say no.
Yeah. And it's like an element of, we say like sacrifice often has like negative connotations, but it's more so that you're just prioritizing different things. But it means that you do have to have good boundaries and weigh up the opportunity cost of one task, I guess, to the next.
Yeah, like the word passion, people like passionate people, but I think the roots of the word passion, it leads to sacrifice. Like perfect example would be like the movie Passion of the Cross or whatever it is, Passion of the Christ.
Yep.
But it's all about sacrifice, right?
Yeah.
Like what are you sacrificing? So I don't think they should actually be treated equal, what you say yes to and what you say no to. And saying yes to stuff, it's always like, you're doing more, but saying no to stuff should be celebrated as much as saying yes to stuff. Which you're exactly right. People kind of go, oh, man, you're putting that on hold? How dare you?
Yeah.
But it should be celebrated a lot more.
Other things worth celebrating was your triathlon.
Oh, yeah.
I also blame you now because now Bailey's addicted to triathlons and riding bikes. And I'm like, what is this world we've entered into? How did it go? You put a lot of hours into the preparation for it. How was the race?
So good.
Yeah.
A lot easier than I thought it would be.
Okay.
And that's, I know, I'm not trying to sound like I don't know what to say. I don't want to sound like I'm really athletic, but what it was just putting in the time of like training and just committing to the process and knowing like every single time I'm out here putting in the work, it's just going to make that final thing easier.
Yeah.
But yeah, it went really well for me personally. That's not to say it wasn't a challenging day. So when I signed up to it in February, I was thinking, far out, this is going to be hell. I'm not going to be able to walk after. The next day, I'm just going to hate life and all that sort of thing. And I was panicking, but like towards the end of this, I was really looking forward to just finally showcasing like all the work I'd put in. So the mindset shifted big time. And then it wasn't that. I finished the race. I was fresh. I was tight in my calves, but the next day I was ready to train again.
Wow.
And like I felt good. But the day was challenging. So normally the one that I signed up to was Western Australia, and it's generally flat, it's hot, it's quick. It wasn't any of those things except for the flat. But it was choppy. So like the waves were crazy. People were panicking, vomiting. Some of the pros were like lying on their back, trying not to, psych themselves out. People swimming on top of each other. You couldn't see the boys because the waves were. You had to get to the top of the wave to have a look. So it was chaos. It was rough. And then jumping on the bike, it was very windy, very very windy, and you also had rain that came through halfway, and it was just we had to all slow down. There was crashes everywhere and chaos. But then the run for me, like I felt really good on the run, the first 21 Ks. But then after that, my calves just kind of went, I've got nothing left, mate. You're going to have to just chip away at this and cruise home. And so that's what I did. But yeah, such a good experience. I don't know how I did it because normally I get really hungry on them. So I was just surviving on gels the whole time.
Would you do another one?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. Looking at Cairns or looking at Bustleton next year as well. Bailey said he's coming.
Oh my gosh, I know. I'm looking at him like, please tell me you haven't booked it in. I don't know any dates. So awesome. That's such a huge achievement.
Yeah, so good. And I'm loving every bit of it, which is good.
So cool.
Yeah.
So then if we look back into the business world, if you had to start all the way back at the start, starting from scratch, knowing what you know now, is there anything you do differently? Yeah, totally.
I think there's a big push for, being online, building a personal brand. And if I had that a lot earlier, which I feel like, some people had a big start on that. And so they've kind of already planted their name in the space. That's what I do straight away. Yeah. If I was to start the business today, I would be focusing on building that from the get-go.
Yeah, and I think your personal brand has definitely grown so much since you've obviously shifted the focus. I don't know if I've shown you this, but I showed Bailey when I was doing my research. I Googled Aldrin Oscing. Yeah. And did you know that businesses came up with Google ads under your personal name?
Interesting.
So the personal branding is working. I'll show you after the screenshots of it. But it shows that obviously the effort you're putting into is getting attraction. Maybe not in the best ways, but people are trying to ride the coattails of it.
Wow. Interesting.
Okay, our final question, and obviously this is the Be All In podcast, and we're doing a lot of work of describing exactly what Be All In means. And I think something we've decided more is that what Be All In means to me is completely different to what it might mean to you. And it should have an individual definition to everyone, because we've noticed that people might say like, oh, you've got to be all in to sort of hit a lift. And it's like, oh, but what you describe it as is not the same as what I might. So what does Be All In mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, be all in means to give whatever you're trying to give 100%, but it's 100% of what you have. And I don't think it is because the thing is, I'm also a dad, I'm a husband, man of God. I do a lot of other things that kind of shape my self-concept. And so if I completely say no to all those things, then I've lost the plot on the roles and responsibilities that I have to other things. And so if I was to say no to all that and just give all my energy, all my time and stuff on this, then I would say that's just ludicrous. You got to be sensible about this sort of stuff. I think Be All In means trying to come up with what is the max that I can give to this without taking away from other things that are important to me. Yeah. Because as a physio, being all in on a lift like that, right? If you were to give every ounce of your strength to lift something, it's actually dangerous. There are mechanisms in the body that prevent you to go to 100%, because you can tear something or you can injure yourself. But Be All In means to go, okay, well, this is what I've got for today. Maybe it's not everything because maybe you didn't sleep well or whatever, but you give that and you're happy with that because that's what you got. And so for me, if I have this amount of time based on other things that I'm doing, being all in for my business, that's all I've got, but I'm okay with that. Yeah. So it's just learning how to, you've got to define what success looks like, not just the lower limit, but also the upper limit. And as long as you're within that phase of sticking in this zone, that's your all in. Yeah, I love that. That's really similar to how I guess I describe it, which is define your capacity and then commit to that capacity. Yeah. But what everyone's definition of capacity is completely different because of all the external factors, and my definition of how much I can give to my relationship. When I'm in that capacity, I commit to that level. Yeah, I think, I don't know if you listen to Nick Bear a lot, probably. I think he said something one time about going all in. It's you go all in, but it's not all encompassing. It's not you forget about absolutely everything in the world and this is the only thing you think about. It's very unreasonable and very, very dangerous. Yeah. And I resonated with that big time. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for talking with us today, with me today in the podcast. I feel like I've learned so much about you, about business, about life, that I'm going to be listening back to this one. Maybe I'll make it a quarterly check-in with Buzz when I'll listen back to some of the lessons. But thank you so much. That's all good. Happy to be here and thanks for having me. We appreciate it so much. Looking forward to hearing more people on here and the guests that come around. Cool. It's great. This is really capped off. This will be our last episode of the year, so I'll make sure I put it out. People can listen to it over their New Year's break. Feel honoured. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Okay, what are the podcast things? Every week, I'm not sure. We download, follow. Those are the two. So do those two things, and thank you for listening. Be all in.
Let's go.